Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured, why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description, and every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description, and in every episode description, I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say, I'm watching so-and-so show. And then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it. And that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about Season 3, Episode 7 of Hulu's Only Murders in the Building, entitled CoBro. The episode title here is, of course, based on the movie for which Ben became famous, but I think more specifically due to the revelation that Ben's brother Dickie may have actually created the character, and Ben just took the credit for it. Dickie talks a lot about Ben getting credit for a lot of stuff that he shouldn't have, and when learning that Dickie may have created CoBro, Mabel correctly identifies this as a motive. Now, is this a plausible motive for killing your brother? I don't think so, but I'll talk about plausibility a little bit later. I think this episode, though, was a strong comeback from last week's lackluster. Feels strong, but it was a little lackluster. Last week's lackluster episode, having the Omid B crew split up for most of the episode was a lot easier to deal with when you trot out Matthew Broderick and Mel Brooks in the way that you did this week. You know, I didn't know Matthew Broderick was going to be in this season, but his overly committed method actor shtick was hilarious and necessary with both Streep and Rudd absent this week. Despite the episode title, like I saw it's called CoBro, I was like, okay, cool, Paul Rudd's going to be back. I also appreciated the fact that when pointing the accusatory finger at someone this week, they created a motive better than you and Ben had a disagreement, which was kind of a lazy justification for everyone up to that point who they decided to point the finger at. Ben got rich and famous off your ideas and now makes you work for him is a much better motive than Ben was a dick to you. So I was a lot more appreciative of the ways in which they shined the light of suspicion on Dickie this week. I want to start at the beginning of the episode. Great place to start. Because by the time the episode was over, that opening scene felt kind of strange to me at first. So, and I said at the end of the episode it felt strange to me at first, but I thought about it a little bit more. But the episode opens with what I thought was a flashback initially about Bunny, but it's really about her friend Uma, whose name I had to look up because I feel like it's never said on the show, and they didn't even say it in this episode. But Uma narrates the idea of not trusting people because they can always leave you, as Bunny did, as in leave you as in like die. So she trusts and keeps things, objects, and we see her essentially stealing shit. She's kind of like a hoarder. She's got like a whole bunch of things that she kind of keeps as mementos of people that those things can't leave her like the person can. And of those things that she has taken, it includes Ben's handkerchief off of his dead body, which we technically don't see, but it's confirmed that happened. I'd already forgotten about the who doesn't have a handkerchief theory. So this sequence didn't even really matter to me at first. I guess I felt like they moved on from the handkerchief theory. So it was strange that all of this time later, they felt the need to explain what happened with Ben's hanky. But after I thought about it, the hanky theory is technically still in play, right? Because if Uma took that hanky off Ben, then the hanky could still potentially belong to the killer. And we learned in this episode that Uma sold it to someone who lives in the building. I think she called them snake people or something like that. I don't know what that means. Maybe it's a reference I'm forgetting from a previous season. But yeah, so I guess the hanky theory is back on the table, which is interesting considering that it was presented very early and now is being reintroduced with 3 episodes left. But yeah, it might end up playing a large role in finding who the killer is. One of several funny moments in this episode happens at the end of this scene when Uma leaves Charles in the diner with the bill, and he looks at the bill and he's like, "How much did you eat? How much did you order?" And you see her picking up bags of carryout. She's like, "Lunch and dinner too," and like runs off. I thought that was funny. We also see the return of Theo this week, who, if it wasn't for the fact that he was deaf, he would have, like, I might not have known it was Theo. He looks a lot more put together this season. Like, if he hadn't been signing, I wouldn't have. And even then, I was still kind of like, that's Theo, right? Like, did they recast him? But Theo's a big CoBro fan, and Dickie is auctioning off a bunch of Ben shit. And so he suggests that Mabel try to get information from Ben by talking to his brother. Dickie snaps on Mabel for asking about Ben, accusing her of trying to make money off of his dead brother, just like everyone else has, for her podcast. And she later apologizes, and Dickie, that was apparently enough, because Dickie just opens the floodgates at that point. He went from, "Oh, you asked me a question, fuck you," to like, "Oh, you're sorry? Here's every little piece of knowledge you can need." He tells her that Ben set his watch back 20 minutes so he can always be fashionably late. Then that must hold on. Let me rewind. Let me rewind a minute. So, like I said, she later apologizes to Dickie, and she relays all the information I alluded to earlier about Ben getting credit. I'm sorry, he relays all the information that I mentioned earlier about Ben getting credit for things he shouldn't have, and how he always has to clean up Ben's mess. And this is what I wanted to kind of like rewind from, because I didn't want to skip over this. But there's one scene in this one scene, there's something I didn't particularly care for, and it's Mabel deduces that since Dickie, well, it wasn't in this scene, but you guys get what I'm talking about. Mabel deduces that since Dickie told her that Ben sets his watch back 20 minutes so he could be fashionably late, then that must mean that Greg was out of the building prior to Ben's true death time of whatever the fuck it was, plus 20 minutes. To be that confident with such weak evidence was like a smidge annoying to me. Like, there's so many things that could be wrong with that theory. Like, for starters, maybe that's not even true. Maybe Ben doesn't do that at all. Even if he did he do it on all of his devices? I'm assuming he's a star. He probably has more than one watch. He set all his watches back, and he definitely had one of those 20-minute setback watches on his wrist at that time. Like, we have no way at all of verifying that, nor do we have any way of verifying that the time on his watch was 20 minutes before his actual death. Yet this incredibly weak evidence is enough for Mabel to drop a new podcast episode, sans Oliver and Charles, who are about to apologize, and move out of her apartment without telling them. And then on top of that, we have this cop at the end, and he's on the phone. He's like, "Yeah, I heard it. We need to reopen Ben's case." The fuck? Like, what, off a podcast episode, my guy? Like, a podcast episode with a weak explanation and no evidence to support it? You're like, "Yeah, you heard what Mabel said. We got to reopen the Ben case." Like, you answer to Selena Gomez, police officer? Like, I don't know. That was a bit much for me. Like I said I was going to talk about plausibility later. They stretched plausibility to the maximum limit. Oh, can you see this little? No, you might not be able to with the Chiron. There's a nice little, other side, nice little thing of light that's shining in one of my windows. Anyway, who gives a fuck? Why would you care? Anyway, so yeah, I didn't like I was told Ben's watch is off by 20 minutes, therefore Greg is innocent. Ridiculous leap in logic that everyone in this episode was okay with taking, but it's a minor quibble. I still really enjoyed the episode, but on the heels of talking about something that I didn't like, let's talk about something that I did like. Every scene featuring Matthew Broderick and Martin Short, I liked them all. All that stuff was great. You know, I know Broderick's been working, but for me, it's been so long since I've seen him being funny in anything. since I've seen him in anything, period. So it was super cool to have him here and be hilarious. Their whole B plot starts off with Donna, Cliff, and Oliver working to replace Charles in the show. And I loved when after one shitty audition, Cliff like sweeps a bunch of papers off the table and then just like starts dancing. And Donna's like I know you be stress dancing, but you gotta calm down, like stress dancing. And it just looked funny the way he transitioned from angrily swiping the papers off of the table to like big sweeping dance movements. Like that was fucking hilarious to me. I don't know why. Part of me wonders if that whole scene was like impromptu, like he just swiped the papers off and then just started dancing, and then she's like, oh wow, you're stress dancing, and they were like, yo, we got to keep this in, because I don't know, that felt kind of, that was so random, but I love that scene. So Donna wants Oliver to bring Charles back, but Cliff has an idea and he makes a call, and that's how he bags Matthew Broderick. There's another great moment where Matthew catches Charles eavesdropping, and Charles pretends like he's checking the doorbell or some shit, and Oliver tells him that Broderick is his replacement, and he says it's not the first time Matthew Broderick stole a role from me. And Matthew's like, I didn't steal Ferris Bueller. You were 41 years old. And I do love a good fact check. So I looked it up, and Steve Martin was in fact 41 years old when Ferris Bueller came out. So that was kind of cool. We're then treated to a number of hilarious moments meant to showcase how seriously Matthew is taking this role. Like, he asks where the constable is from and tries to, like, tailor his accent to that location and time period. He wants to, I love how he wanted to make sure he was pointing at the proper highlight. No, they would point down here. Like, I thought that was great. When he's like, Ferris Bueller may take a day off, but Matthew Broderick does not. And then my favorite moment is when he's talking about how he prepares for the roles, and he says that he prepared for his role in election by teaching high school and dating a student. I thought that was really good. And then, as if Broderick wasn't funny enough, we get another unexpected cameo from Mel Brooks, only to tell Oliver that he's fucked when it comes to Broderick. And I don't know, I just like hearing Mel Brooks say, "You're fucked." That was great. So we end the episode with Charles and Oliver making up, as Oliver hilariously fires Broderick from the show with this outstanding, like, long diatribe with like a really really entertaining horse analogy that just kept getting better and better with each sentence. Oliver then shows Charles the book that he got from Loretta's crib, the one with all the clippings of Ben stuff. And Charles responds the same way that I did to Mabel's 20-minute watch theory, which is by saying, that's not good evidence. They want to use the book as a peace offering to make up with Mabel, but like I said earlier, it was too late. She'd already moved on. And like I said, this was a much better episode than last week, maybe even than the last two. You know, I wouldn't hate if they made these random celeb cameos a much more regular occurrence, where we randomly get, like, 15 minutes of some rando in this episode, like, completely going for it. Like somebody who maybe, we might not, like Meryl Streep. Like, it's not that I didn't think Meryl Streep could do comedy, but I didn't think it'd be this good. Something like that. Bring in somebody, like it was great watching Joe Pesci on the Peacock show with Pete Davidson. I don't know why I'm spacing on the name right now, but him on that. De Niro, and when Meet the Parents came out, get some of these actors who, like, we're not really accustomed to seeing in comedic roles, and they don't even need to be like a full season, kind of like they appear in 5-6 episodes. Give me maybe like 3 or 4 of these per season, but have it be a different person, and they just get like an episode, and it's just, I don't know, I feel like that could really help rejuvenate and put some more energy into the show. Helps break up the formula a bit. And it doesn't change the formula in any way. They still stick to it, but for me as a viewer, all the cool cameos and laughs distract me from the formula. All the best episodes this season have been the funniest ones, i.e. the ones with Meryl Streep in them. Because when that humor is stripped away and an episode isn't as funny, the weak nature of the story, it's a lot more evident. But it makes me wonder what kind of agreement Rudd and Streep had, like how many episodes, like is there a thing like, okay, I've signed on to do X amount of episodes, so they then write it around, how many episodes those people can be in. Like, they've elevated the show so much when they're on, it just feels like a lot less of a show when they're not. And I don't know if that's probably an unintended consequence of being like, oh wait, we can get Paul Rudd and Meryl Streep, cool. And then it's kind of like, oh man, we didn't realize they'd be so great that the episodes that they're not in feel a little bit, so Yeah, I don't know. I think that'd just be cool to get people to be willing to do this. Come on and do 4 or 5 episodes like Streep and Rudd did, or have these like one-off cameos like we saw with Broderick. But with 3 episodes left, I expect to get a good dose of Meryl Streep and Paul Rudd as we close out. I'm not particularly interested in finding out who killed Ben, as I've been saying all season. I just like spending time with these characters. So I don't like Mabel. I don't like what Mabel's doing right now. It's very, very upsetting to me. So we need to get the Omid B crew back together. Get Rudd and Streep in for these last couple of episodes and finish the season strong. I will see you guys next week for episode. I've lost track. What is it? 7? Yeah. Next week, episode 8. And until then, peace.